This is the most shameless boss I've ever seen.
He's out front chasing a dad and he's in the back. He's out with his girlfriend. She pinches his nose, and he drops his pence. His name is Tae-il. He's the king of debt collection here, but he collects debts in a very special way. When faced with a debtor who won't pay, he poured no 90 to gasoline into the debtor's mouth. When the debtor saw what was happening, he paid his kid's tuition. But Tae-il was not inhuman. He threw out a bunch of money and told the debtor to leave it for the kids.
It was the children's tuition, and they could not afford to delay their studies.
That day, the boss assigned a new task, transferring a dying debtor's contract to his daughter's name. But at that very moment, though his heart was pounding, as a qualified debt collector, all he could do was ruthlessly go through the motions. The two boys then pulled out the old man's oxygen tube, and both sides were torn apart, were forced to do something about it. Xiaomei also had to sign this high debt transfer agreement. Looking at the heartbroken Xiaomei, Tae-il felt bad, but as a laborer, there was nothing he could do. The next day, Tae-il found out that Xiaomei owed a huge hospital bill. In order to pay for her father's medical bills, she sells her little red car. Seeing this, Tae-il was a bit intolerant and decided to help her out. So he asks her to go to a bar under the pretext of debt collection. But as a straight man of steel in his late 40s, a few words annoyed Mei. Then he said he never wanted to see you again and chose to leave. But even then, Tae-il didn't give up, even though Xiaomei still hated him. But when a man is in love, does he still care about his dignity? The next day, Tae-il came to the company to plead with his boss to let him take full responsibility for Xiaomei's debt. The boss sympathizes with his feelings and agrees. He agrees to pay the debt and return only the principal. Then, Tae-il came back to the hospital to make another agreement. He said that if you go out with him for an hour a day, you scribble a square. When the form was scribbled, it would cancel out all the debts. In order to pay off the debt, Mei had to give in. He asked Tae-il, "Do you like me or do you have something in mind for me?" Faced with this question, Tae-il's eyes flickered and he didn't dare to answer. In the following days, Tae-il started to take care of his image, but their dates were always one after another. Even during meals, Xiaomei refused to move her chopsticks. That day, when she visited her father in the hospital, she saw Tae-il wiping her father's body without showing any displeasure. She finally felt that the thug in front of her didn't seem so annoying anymore. But this guy was too aggressive, and he walked and pushed to the right on purpose. Xiaomei looked up and saw that it was the so-and-so International Hotel. She's a bank teller, paying off her father's debts. He's the king of debt collectors in the area. In order to chase the goddess of his heart, the man used every means possible, but when he finally makes progress, it's because of a misunderstanding. She saw the man arguing. She finally realizes how such a man could possibly give her a future. So when Xiaomei met Tae-il, she once again rejected his advances. They didn't contact each other for many days, until that day when he received the news that Xiaomei's father had passed away. He came without saying a word, and after giving a large sum of money, without saying a word, he went to his father's soul. He bowed 3 times sincerely. The first thing he said was to ask if Xiaomei had eaten yet, then immobilized all the traders in the market to come to the funeral. The vendor who was vandalized that day also happened to be here. After learning that the vendor was thanking Tae-il for his help, Mei realizes that she misunderstood him that day. Although Tae-il was a debt collector, he was always willing to help.
He also took care of the aftermath, like a son-in-law. After the funeral, Mei finally fell in love with this silly man. They fell in love on the balcony and lived together, but Tae-il accidentally farted. He gave a plausible explanation. He said, "I love you."
But good times are always too short. When they were planning to open a fried chicken restaurant and have some kids, they were ready to wash their hands in gold and collect the bills for the last time. But he suddenly foamed at the mouth and passed out. When he woke up again, the doctor told him he had a tumor in his head. At that moment, Tae-il felt like the whole sky had fallen. When he returned home, he didn't tell Xiaomei about his condition. He wanted to save money and open a fried chicken restaurant, but it was hard to find a suitable store. But the rent and transfer fee were too expensive. Xiaomei wanted to find a cheaper place, but Tae-il refused. What did he do that would make the goddess fall in love with such a scoundrel? Memories of the good times they had together. Tae-il goes to his brother with all their savings. He was going to follow his brother's advice and convert his bike into a motorcycle. He rented a store for Xiaomei that she had her eye on, but he never expected that this decision would cost him everything. Seeing the more money he won, after today, he could open the fried chicken store. But just then, a group of thugs broke in. In order to keep his money, Tae-il fought to the death. Then, he accidentally tore off the mask of the thugs, and the man turned out to be one of Big Brother's men. Turns out, it's a plot by the boss to take over his boss's business. When he rushed to the boss's office, it was empty. At that moment, he lost everything, and Xiaomei saw him fighting and causing trouble. but couldn't give her an explanation. She was completely disappointed in him. Seeing his lover leave, Tae-il didn't stay. He knew that his illness would only drag Xiaomei down.
But just then, 3 drunken soldiers were talking about Xiaomei. With nowhere to vent, Tae-il immediately fought them. Like a god of war, he quickly knocked them all to the ground. Bastard, aren't you great? Get up and fight again.
He was once a king of debt collectors, but he was cheated of his money by his boss, and he's just been diagnosed with an advanced brain tumor. Not only did he lose his girlfriend, he was sentenced to 3 years in jail for fighting because of his deteriorating condition. He got out of prison early.
After his release, Tae-il found Xiaomei, hoping to get her forgiveness, but she didn't want to see him at all. I wish you were dead. Meanwhile, Tae-il's condition was getting worse. He knew his days were numbered. To
make it up to Xiaomei, he went back to his boss. He wanted to get back the money that belonged to him, but his boss didn't want it. So the next day, Tae-il smashed his office in a fit of rage. It looked like he was going to play with him. After being put in cold storage for a few hours, Tae-il shows him a court scan of his brain. Tae-il tells him his days are numbered. He just wants to get back the money that was taken from him. The owner doesn't want to go too far and ends up giving him his money back. After getting the money, Tae-il finds Xiaomei and wants to give her the money, but Xiaomei doesn't want the unclean money and throws it right in his face. However, just as the two of them were pulling, Tae-il suddenly showed signs of getting sick. He doesn't want Xiaomei to find out, so he hugs her tightly. Only for a moment. Let go. Just for a moment. Just for a moment. Just a moment. Just a moment. A few days later, on the anniversary of Mei's father's death, Tae-il came to offer his condolences. Although Xiaomei didn't welcome him, he did what a son-in-law should do. Tae-il told Xiaomei that he would soon leave the city. He won't bother her anymore. Before leaving, Tae-il sees the agreement hidden in the corner. He knows that Xiaomei has always had him in her heart. Although he didn't want to leave, he had to leave. A few days later, Tae-il was about to leave when he saw Xiaomei on a blind date. The man looked well-mannered, much better than himself. A gangster, he looked at Xiaomei's smile and blessed her from the bottom of his heart, but just turned around and didn't walk a few steps. His condition flared up again. He bled from his mouth and nose and fainted. When he woke up again, he was already admitted to the hospital. When he checked the hospital bill, he realized that Xiaomei had sent him to the hospital. At night, when Tae-il was ready to leave the city again, Xiaomei ran over to him. It turns out that Xiaomei already knew the truth from the police. She finally realized how much this man had paid for her. The Jew didn't say a word, but at this moment, Tae-il couldn't hold back any longer. All the pain, the aggression turned into tears at this moment. In the following days, Xiaomei accompanied him for his final treatment. That night, while Xiaomei was asleep, Tae-il placed the key to the fried chicken restaurant in her hand. It was his last wish. One night soon after, Tae-il finally passed away. On the day of the funeral, looking at the girl in front of him, Tae-il's father realized that what his son had said was true.
The truth is, I almost got married,
But I blew it.
she was beautiful too, a goddess.
She didn't have a father, so be her father. She's the woman your son loves so much.